Wake up, friend. I answer to Almighty God. I don't fear man. Fear the one that can cast my soul to hell. So I'm not being ugly. I wasn't ugly or anything. Just see me after the service. He ain't seen me yet. See, it was on his heart. He was infuriated about something. But let me tell you why I didn't meet with him. I'm getting ready to deliver God's message. I'm on Kingdom Sat. 66% of the world's population has a chance to hear me. I preach in Tehran 4 times a day, 5 days a week. Morocco, Tunisia. I'm one of the most popular broadcasts in Egypt because they think I'm an Egyptian. They do. Michael Youssef is the one who owns the satellite, his church, the Church of the Apostles, and they put me on as the gospel preacher. I've been doing it for 10 years. And so it's all over the world. That wealthy man that pays for the satellite time. And we go into all those countries. So I'm Native American, so I'm normally dark. And in the summer, just by being outside walking, I get darker, and they think I'm an Egyptian. So when the winter gets here and I start lightening up some, I tried to convince the church to send me to the islands so I could... They didn't buy into it. They laughed at me too, you know. Hey, and then while I'm at it, can I give you another point? If you're going to lead anybody, you better have a sense of humor. Some of you take yourself far too serious. Who do you think you are? Warren Wiersbe said if somebody says something bad about you, before you get angry, go to your prayer room, get on your knees, and thank God they don't know you like Jesus, or they would have the goods on you. So sometimes we just think too much of ourselves. See, sometimes I go home and laugh at what somebody called me. Janet, can you believe what they said about me? I'm a lot of things. To which she says, you sure are. And those who know you best, all right? And isn't that a great part of music? The one who knows me best loves me most. So, you know, I think some leaders just think too much of themselves. And so as a result, if somebody ever says something that's less than all they think they are, they act like it's not true. I've not committed all the sins, but I think I've thought about committing all of them. And if you're even struggling with that, you're a Pharisee. And by the way, that's not all bad because you're fair, you see. And that's better than being a Sadducee because they're Sadducee. All right. Now, you're ready to get in. You're learning deep stuff. You can't learn this at seminary except when preachers come. All right, so let me just give it. Here we go. A leader works toward a goal through the cooperation of the people. Through the cooperation of people. So that's what I'm just working through Woodstock. I'm leading that group of people. I told leaders yesterday, I think it's the number one platform in my life is serving as pastor of the church, that week by week I get to pour into them and challenge them, and they've bought in. And a great deal. A lot of them have, not all of them, but I move with the movers. The process of gaining their cooperation, so, you know, growing, can be learned and developed. Not everybody at our church are generous givers, but they should be. And so I just keep challenging them. But I've not gotten so discouraged that I've lost passion to challenge them to be what God would have them to be. So I ask them each Sunday as though this is going to be the Sunday they all buy in. And there it is. The leader motivates people's participation by ensuring their personal fulfillment. Greatest joy of my life is serving the Lord. That's the truth under God. What a joy and privilege it is to serve. The greatest memorable moments in my life is not when I've received something, it's when I gave something. If you ever go into your closet and you think, I've always loved that shirt, but you hadn't worn it in 4 years. But it is hard to give that joker away, isn't it? But then one day, you move out of the realm of procrastination. Kind of like before you go on vacation, the things you got to do. If you work like that every week, you'd be the most successful person in the country. So what I did, I went in and I just took these suits, nothing wrong with them. Well, I just don't wear them anymore. Just don't wear them. And these shirts, and I just don't wear them. And I took them, and I've got a large staff, and put an email out and said, you see what size I am. If you think you can wear or one of your family members, you're welcome for all of these. Well, yesterday, I looked over and the guy had on my pants and my shirt. And I thought, and that made my heart feel so good that instead of just hanging there, and he said, "You got any more? Pass them on, brother. Pass them on." And then one guy wrote me, and I want you to hear what he said. People tell you what's important to him. His name's Dennis Devis. We call him Double D. He's a layman. He was by there, so he got a suit. And somebody gave me the suit, and it was custom made. My name's in it. And I thought, you ought to tear that out. And, oh, no. John gave me this. John. I mean, and he's really a successful man. He really is. But he loves it. And he said, he left me a voicemail. I've got it in my phone. I've got it in my phone. Make sure I didn't delete them. Just see if I'm telling the truth. Still got it. Yeah, still got it in the phone. Sunday at 1:19 left me a voicemail. He said, "I wore a suit to church today." He's crying. He said, "I told my wife, Cindy, I want to be buried in this suit." I thought, and he said, "Why would you tell me that?" Listen to your people. They'll tell you what's important to them. That weren't a big deal. The big deal is I'm so stinking stingy, and I'm really a generous giver, but I'm stingy. You say, how do you work that out? There's this beast in me called the flesh that raises his no good for nothing, God-forsaken, hell-bound, deserving head against everything the Holy Spirit wants to do. If you don't understand that, that was Galatians 5:17, my rendition. There's a battle going on so that I cannot do that which I want to do. So anyway, so the leader motivates people's participation by ensuring their personal fulfillment through the involvement of a common venture. That's what I'm in right now. It's really kind of cool to be teaching, and I'm in this right now. Now, yesterday was Sunday was an unusually blessed day, and if you stay around me long enough, I could tell you about some days that I really wanted to quit, and really consider it. All right, God designed leadership roles for Moses, for Jeremiah, for the Apostle Paul, but listen to this. They had to learn leadership skills just as a man called to preach the gospel must learn to preach. My first church called me to preach, and I'll never forget as long as I live, because you tell stories over the years, so you remember exactly how you said. But I remember telling Livonia Baptist Church in Gaffney, South Carolina. I've been a convert for 3 years. I was now a student at Gardner-Webb College, a university now. And when I just said to them, guys, I've only known the Lord 3 years. I haven't preached that many sermons. I'll study and work hard. The only thing is I came out of poverty, so I had, when I was converted, my wife went and got me a Bible the next morning, and they sold her a New Schofield Reference Edition. And so it had a lot of study notes in it. And somebody gave me Matthew Henry's commentary on the Bible. And then somebody gave me Warren Wiersbe's 2 red notebooks on the Old Testament and New Testament from Calvary Book Room. And that's all. That was my library. The first volumes of commentaries I bought were pulpit commentaries. Now, I hope nobody takes offense to this, but I don't really care that much for them. I think you can read them forever without it teaching you anything. Well, why did you buy them? Because they were a real big volume. And I did, 26 of them, and I needed something to fill those shelves so when people came in, and I'm sitting behind the desk, there's something behind me. I mean, you walk in there, and I've got my Bible and my other 3 books sitting up there. You know, it's not cool. So I finally gave them away. They were easy to give away. All right, so he called all of them, but you had to learn these, so you just try to be better. So aptitude for leadership cannot be dismissed. Aptitude is an inherited potential ability, possesses driving power, but it's still dependent upon personal discipline for ultimate experience and development. For instance, here's a book I read, and it's aged now, but it's still a great book. John Maxwell, listen to this. Talent is never enough. Now, let me speak to the musicians. I love music. Y'all are really good. You multitask. You were playing with your foot and your fingers. I was so impressed. So, but in music, a person can be naturally talented and wing it on their talent. But if they take the talent and develop it in greater leadership, they're the ones that are winning the awards. One of my musicians just won an award, but he recently moved to Nashville, our loss, their gain. And reasons for him to move there, he's doing so much in recording, but his name's Cliff Durham. Cliff's about 35 years old. He just won his first Dove Award in arranging. He's just a phenomenal arranger. He's traveled with me before, and late at night when I just felt exhausted from a day's ministry, he had this energy, and he continued to write and work and arrange. And I thought, here's one of the most talented guys I've ever seen, but he is working the fire out of his talent. I've known guys that were just naturally good and humorous. They stand up and speak, but then we found out that all they were doing is getting somebody else's material. And I could tell stories of notable people that did that really got in trouble later. And one person put it like this: they listened with their ears what somebody else said and spoke it from their mouth, therefore never assimilated into their heart to really get God's message and give it. So I just simply say, and it's certainly not just true of musicians, pastors, all of us, but talent is never enough. That's a great book to read. So here's some principles of vision. What is vision? Let me just see if I can find it in my words. A vision's a clear picture of what the leader sees his people being or doing. Did you know I would speak words of vision before I could define them? I even ask a question. You ever heard a sermon and the preacher ask questions about the text instead of giving explanation of some of it? I've got a question. When Esther went before the king, did she know all of what she was preserving? Maybe God has sent me here for such a time as this. Did she know that? Did she think that it was maybe just, I'm going to keep these Jews and family and friends from their extinction? Or did she say, the bloodline of God's Son runs through these people. There'll be no Messiah. Did she see that? So where are you going, Pastor? I'm telling you, sometimes God gives you a vision and you speak it and you don't even know all of it. You don't know how far it goes. John Bisagno's father-in-law, back when he was in his 20s going to marry his father-in-law's daughter, said to him, John, be faithful. You don't know where God's going to take you from here. You don't know the end of the road. You don't know what God may do with you in your life. That can be really exciting. So it's a clear picture of what the leader sees his people being or doing. Jesus, when he saw Simon Peter, was that vision or what? You are Simon. You're probably thinking, well, I know my name. And Simon translates wavering one. But you shall be Peter. He saw him for a visionary leader sees his people what they could become. How many times have we said this? The guy's reckless, but he's got such a following. What if we could channel that? Proverbs chapter 21. The Bible says God holds the king's heart in his hand and can turn it like the channels of water. Well, if God can do that with the king, I think he can do it with a couple of my deacons. Just saying. All right. So from that clear picture, the leader begins to plan how that vision will become a reality. We're going to reach these people, how to do it. And now, this is a great word. Where there's no vision, Proverbs 29:18, the people cast off restraint. Did you know the word there can be translated from the Hebrew dream? It's translated prophetic revelation. It's the word vision. Did you know, I would go so far as to say that dream that God put in Joseph's heart when he was 17 years old, it was a lot to do with keeping him pure. He knew that if he messed with Potiphar's wife, vision eradicated. How much did his vision drive his purity? But when there's no vision, you cast off restraint. Throw your life to the wind. Someone says, I didn't know what I had until I lost it. Well, you every now and then you ought to do an inventory of just how good God has been to you. So if the people can't see where God has taken them, they stumble around, run wild, no direction. A fella comes to me and says, I just tell you, I want to know if I can put your name on my resume. Well, I love you and I love preachers, of course, if I can help you. Why are you thinking about leaving? People just won't follow me. Where are you trying to take them? What do you mean? And I'm serious. I mean, what I just said is a real conversation. And a guy called me the other day and he said, used your name when I came to New Vision, and I'm in the process of thinking I should leave here. Can I still use your name? I didn't want to use it again without your permission. Bible says the wounds of the faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy. Better than kiss me. So I said, hey, I thought it was about time for you to call me. What do you mean by that? I said, well, you've been there 7 years now. It's time to really dig your heels in and do the hard work. You've preached all your sugar sticks. And you've kind of rallied all the people that were low-bearing fruit. But now that you got to dig your heels in and develop leaders, you're hitting the road. I don't appreciate you saying that. I said, next time I see you, if you'll ask me to forgive you, I will. That'll settle in at lunch. So bottom line is, he called back and said, God used you in my life. And by the way, faithful are the wounds. Wounds hurt, just for the record's sake. Wounds hurt. So if you think you can just tiptoe through the tulips, or sometimes you need to just kind of say it to a brother. And Jesus' harshest statements were to the religious establishment. And so basically, he's still there and growing and celebrating his 10th anniversary. Talking to his committee about a sabbatical for his 10th anniversary. He's so excited. If we get it, I hope he gives me something. But anyway, Joseph's vision gave him direction. See, vision is about the future. God is a visionary. He's always leading us into a better future. Really, I mean, it's just so you can live in your regrets, live in your past, and all of us have a past, but I believe the grace of God can get you past your past. And so you just have to trust the Lord. So God is visionary. So vision is a picture of the future. So what do you see? What do you think could happen here? Hey, this is something cool to do. I took a service in the early days at church and stood up with a whiteboard and just said, hey, I want to hear your heart tonight. What do you think God could do with us here? And it was remarkable. And I was prepared for this. And so when they began to tell us what they thought we could do, I began to kind of talk to them about what it would cost to do what they thought we could do. And so the question is, you're willing to pay the cost? And see, this is a leader when you get to the point you're no longer willing to pay the cost, or the cost is too much. That's the ceiling of your ministry. John Maxwell, certainly did not create this statement. It was long before him, but he put it in his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, and that is, it's called the principle of the lid. You all know it. Okay, I'm just going to assume you know it. But here's a smidgen of it. Principle of the lid. Take a flea, put him in a pint mason jar. He can hop out. Put a lid on it with some air for him to breathe. He will jump for a few days, hitting his little flea head on the top of the mason can. Take it off. He never comes out. It's the principle of the lid. So most people have been so down. Pastor has a bad experience somewhere. He goes to the next church and he can't enjoy it because he is living in the past. And so I say to him, so Mark, how's the church going? Well, it's really going surprisingly well. Like, wow, isn't that something? Boy, you might ought to tell Jesus how you're surprised that he's doing anything anymore. And what do you mean by that? And so then he says, but I'm just wondering, when's the hammer going to fall? I would hate to lead like that. That's called baggage. Baggage. Okay, so what pictures are you in mind? If your church would buy in to the vision God's placed in your heart, what would it look like? When's the last time you took a day or two and fasted, got you a legal pad, a pen, a Bible, and a bottle of water, and went to a real quiet place and asked God to speak into your heart? I stayed one day until I got so tired of thinking I fell asleep. Felt bad that I fell asleep, but I woke up alert and wrote like crazy. So if you go to sleep, I'll give you permission. So I wrote some things. I'll let you see this when you get it about in my own fellowship. Everybody, you can't just get your church to do everything. So I started with, if I could only lead you to do 4 things, and I wrote a message on each one of them, what it would look like, and felt they were very biblical. Abraham had a vision. Moses had a vision. Joshua had a vision. Hey, you know what I love about, did you know that Joshua is my favorite Old Testament character? No, it's not. I looked at Joshua and said that. It's his friend Caleb. Caleb's my favorite. I wrote a statement on Caleb. I love Caleb because he wanted when he was finishing what he wanted when he started. Remember, it's in chapter 14. He's dillying out the land. Joshua is. He's giving this tribe this, and kind of looks at Caleb and so many words says, so, Caleb, what do you want? He said, I want Hebron. He said, I'm told the giants still live there. He said, I'm 85 years old. And he said, I'm as strong today as the day when I started, 45 years earlier. And he said this, God's kept me alive. Isn't that a great word? And he did. And he said, I want to go fight some giants. And by the way, Hebron is the land that he went into when he got over there. And so he didn't get to get it then because of those, the committee, that Baptist committee that formed. Hey, by the way, isn't this interesting? They were 12 spies. Can anybody in the room name anyone other than Caleb? None of you seminary professors, other than Caleb and Joshua? See, I can't name any of them. Did you know the Bible says that a good man's name will be remembered, but the unjust man's name will rot? Rot. Did you know that when Billy Graham was coming along, there were 3 preachers that outshone him big time? One's buried in Texas in a cemetery for the poor because he died a drunkard. The other died here in Canada as an atheist, professed atheist. He told Billy Graham when they met, 20 years ago. He said, Billy, the thing about you, we were in school together, and you've not grown. You still believe the same thing you did back then. Wow. Chuck Templeton. Research it, Chuck Templeton. But all of them went by the wayside. But if you'll research the top 5 names in the world right now, you'll always find Billy Graham's name in there. He's known all over the world. I have the privilege to work with his son, Franklin, and his grandson, Will, and our good friend. So we get to do stuff together. I've had the privilege to go and spend afternoon a few years ago with Dr. Graham. What a privilege. Nehemiah had a vision. Jesus had a vision. So question, now we're getting into the personal part. What's your vision? Hey, here's a good word. Before you spend all your time thinking about your vision for whatever you lead, what's the vision for your life? I keep in my phone. You know, it's the strangest thing. I have 7 life goals, and they came after cancer in 2010. When I wondered, what if I don't make it? And then when I did make it, and during those times I was thinking, fell into kind of deep depression, that what if I didn't make it? And so during that time, I began to talk about what I'd like to do with the rest of my life. And I talked about it, and I never wrote it down. And one day I went into my office, and in beautiful calligraphy, beautiful, well matted, were the 7 statements. And I thought, that's what I've been saying. I'd said it so much that one of my close friends heard it. If you walk into a pastor's reception, it's on the wall. And it sort of drives me now. So, all right, so let me give you this, and I think, I can do this before lunch. I want to give you, and you can call it what you want to. I just called it 10 vision ideas to help you get started in getting your vision. I want to be practical. I really think there's questions people aren't asking, and I don't know it all, but this is so simple, because I think sometimes it's so complicated and we wonder why we don't have a vision. So, and you're going to get all these notes, but listen to this. Number 1, when I think about getting started and getting the vision God has for me, it must excite you if it's going to excite the people. We do some creative things when we're going to cast vision because I want to get as many people there as I can. So last time we did major food trucks and Krispy Kreme. We had them to tell them when I was getting near finishing to pick up the donuts with a hot light on. I was studying in the Hebrew the other day, and if I got the word right, there will be Krispy Kreme in heaven, and the light will stay on. Okay. Some of you thinking, now he did not. I didn't take Hebrew. Struggle with the Greek. But anyway, all right, number 2, listen to this. Your vision must solve a problem. So what vision is? What's World Vision? World Hunger. What's Compassion International? Adopting of children. What is Holt International? Would you keep these kids and help us at $33 a month until we can find a family to take them? What is New Missions? The poorest country in the Western Hemisphere is Haiti. And I know a good deal about the history of Haiti. For $30 a month, I can clothe the child, send them to school, feed them at school, and they get medical attention too. And they have fresh water, and the well has been dug, and the pastor is the elder of the village, like in the old days. And he's the one that controls the keys to the water. And I can do all that for $30 a month. It's a vision. It's a vision. Somebody painted that picture of me, and I thought, why aren't we doing this? I've got my granddaughter, I told you, has cerebral palsy, so somebody gave me something, and it increased in value. And increased in value and increased in value. And we looked at it one day, and my wife said, it sits there, and everybody asks you about it, and says, boy, how they'd love to have it. If you sell it for what it's worth, you could build a medical clinic and keep kids alive. And so I'm trying to be spiritual. I thought, I don't want to sell that. I like it anyway. So we sold it. It's a medical clinic now. And my granddaughter's picture's on the wall there. And every time I go there, I cry like a teenage girl. So I'm getting ready to go for my 10th trip to Haiti, and I'm taking my 19-year-old granddaughter, and it's her 9th trip, and her name's Katie. And the place we work with after the tornado they had, earthquake. A voodoo priestess home fell, but the foundation's there. And my 19-year-old, she was younger then, would walk by and said, Papa, you ought to buy that house, give it to the mission. And we just walk on. Papa, you ought to buy that house, give it to the mission. So one day Janet says, are you listening? And so we bought the house. And when word got out we bought it, other people were inspired and said, I want to be a part of it. And I could show you a picture of it. And they painted it pink. And now it houses the people that go there on vision trips to help support kids. So my youngest daughter, Holly, she's 39 years old. She's walking through one of the villages, and she hollers, Dad, you've got to come here. And I go over, and there's a baby in a bowl. The baby's just been born. They put it in a bowl. Anything else to put it in because of poverty. And over 50% of the children in Haiti die before they turn 5. So she said, I'm going to start a ministry, Baby in the Bowl. And so we just passed our first 5th anniversary since she started that ministry, her and her husband. And they had a party to celebrate all the 5-year-olds. It's a vision. And somebody says, well, I couldn't underwrite that. You don't have to. God gives you a vision. He underwrites his own programs. Somebody said he'll bankrupt heaven. He can't. But it's cool. The statement sounds good. He'll bankrupt heaven to support his. No, can't do it. Because when you remove from what he has, it continues to replenish itself. Number 3, the vision must have a sense of urgency. People are dying. People are going to die. People are going to hell. I had a wealthy man ask me recently, he said, do you think you can advance the cause? You can advance the cause? Yeah, I do. I really do. Yeah, I know some work that could be done right now. Hey, come on, wait a minute. If you're Southern Baptist, we just drew over 25% of our force off the field because of finances. What do you mean? And by the way, there were veterans. I'm not here to grumble or whatever about it, but we brought the veterans. The ones that we left there still trying to learn the language and the culture, for heaven's sake. I have a missionary. I just communicated with him just a moment ago. His name's Mark McPherson. He's in Vietnam. I'm headed there in 2 weeks. He's working with the above ground church and the underground church. Underground church is stronger, just like it is in China. And he said, Pastor, you know, they're talking about those above 50. They're saying we can volunteer. And I'm not here trying to flex muscle. And I said, that's what they said. And as long as I'm a Southern Baptist, it better be what they meant. Because if they ask you to leave the field, I'm leading our church to leave our denomination. They didn't. They shouldn't have. Still got passion, a calling, or stay right there. Thinking, dear God, he's 52, I'm 65. Hope nobody don't start telling us we need to step down. And just for the record's sake, I'll give this to you. I just gave it about 3 people. Robbie Zacharias did my 30th anniversary celebration at Woodstock. Now, you don't know him. He's one of the leading apologists alive. He lives in the Atlanta area, so we've privileged to be friends for a lot of years. Robbie Zacharias came over and he said, well, Pastor Johnny, I can't believe I'm here for your 30th anniversary celebration. When I give you some words of encouragement, I've just done research around the world, and it's not in print yet, so don't ask me for it. When I get it, I'll give it to you, and I'll tell you how you can get it. But he said, I've studied leaders, and leaders' most effective years of leadership are their 60s. And number 2, 70s. I just thought I'd tell you, I don't know if you are a citizen of the United States, you're president at 71. Sonny Perdue, less than a year ago, became the minister of agriculture. I pastored him for 8 years. He was the governor of our state. He's a very godly man, Sonny Perdue. Jim's a graduate of Southeastern Seminary, is a pastor in Warner Robins, and his other son, Dan, is in Perry, Georgia, as an associate pastor. He's a godly man. He taught Bible study for 8 years at Woodstock. He turned 70 last December. And he started as minister of agriculture. And I said, okay, talk to me, Sonny. Tell me about your job. He said, well, you know, it's the USDA. No food comes in this country without our inspection. And he said, and we go to other countries and do all sorts of trade. And he said, I got 137,000 employees. I said, what's your budget? He said, 139 billion. I said, if you can lead the USDA, I think I can lead Woodstock. I'm not going anywhere for a while, you know. So here's the questions you ask. What's at stake? Think about this. You're formulating a vision. What's at stake? What will we lose if we don't do this? Because a lot of times somebody says, I don't think we ought to do that. And you're to be able to say, well, if we don't. Because when I just did major leadership, an attorney, he's a very good friend, but a very brilliant attorney came to me and he said, you know, Pastor Joe, I heard your vision, but why don't we do it this way? And I was so prepared. It was vision, it was passion. And I was able to really speak into his life. And he said, that makes sense. He said, matter of fact, I thought that's what you'd say. What will we miss out on? What will we miss out on without this vision? What will we regret if we don't see it happen? Why this vision now? Why the urgency? All right, now here's one of my favorite. Number 4. Vision travels through people. I'm taking all this from Nehemiah. Why now? All right, my Bible scholars are here, so I've got to know my homework. Over 100 years, the walls had been down. Why now? What's the big deal, Nehemiah? Nehemiah, before you were born, the blooming walls were down. So you got to be prepared. So I don't really know why. God just burdened my heart. And I'm willing to die to see this. And they say you're not really willing to live until you embrace something you're willing to die for. So you get the leadership of the church or your board. And when I was going to cast vision, I met with all my key leaders. I met with 35 one night. Met one night with 400. Met with 10, 5. Met with some ones. And talk to them. Cast vision. Number 5. Vision can bring clarity. See, if everything's important, nothing's important. So when I see this vision come, here would be a good question to accompany it. What 3 things should I do in the next 12 months? Remember, faith is believing, obedience is doing. Number 6, will the vision outlast me? Is this going to matter once I'm gone? Number 7, if prayer isn't necessary to accomplish the vision, is it too small? I mean, has there been a season of prayer? Have you called people together to pray? What you pray shows your vision is a priority. If 90% of our prayer requests at church are for sick people, vision is slipping. Now, I'm not trying to be unkind, but I'd like to shake it up for a moment. I've heard more prayers trying to keep 93-year-olds out of heaven than I have trying to keep 12-year-olds out of hell. Pray for my mom, and she's 94. Thank good Lord, sure. You know, oh, by the way, you know what Billy Graham requested? Billy Graham asked us to ask our churches to quit praying for healing. He was ready to see Jesus and Ruth. Let him go. Quote me, factual. And he can't see hardly, he can't hear a thing. He's ready to go. 98 years old. Oh, God, pray you touch Dr. Graham Day. He has. He does want to be healed, ultimately. But it's just how we are. I'm not being ugly. I'm just telling you. And you don't have to like what I said. And I said, well, I don't. Well, good. You don't have to. But I'm right. But anyway, you can be wrong if you'd like to. Robbie Zacharias gave me this statement about vision. People listen with their eyes. It's how I'm teaching and they're listening with their eyes. Had a guy come through the pastor's reception a while back. Love to tell this story because it never happened before. And he said, I'm Johnny Hunt. And he gave me his name. And I said, man, glad you're here. First Sunday? Been every Sunday for 3 months. Good night. Awesome. Man, thanks for coming. Well, I wanted to drop by and speak to you before I leave. I'm not coming back. and you know, all things go through your mind. You think, was it something I said? I know what it is. Some of my church people, the way they treat him. You know, you do. You wonder, what is it? What caused it? And he said, no, it's nothing like that. He said, I'm borderline agnostic. But a lot of people in this community are talking about you and, you know, all the good, whatever's going on over here. So just thought I'd come see for myself and, you know, kind of try to be open-minded. I said, well, I've got to be honest with you. I'm encouraged that you came for 3 months. He said, well, I wanted to kind of tell you why. I said, okay. He said, sir, I've not come to embrace and believe what you teach. But the reason I kept coming back, no one can deny that you believe it. And by the way, see if this is true. It's not my calling to convince the people that the gospel's true. That's out of my hands. Spurgeon said I don't have the capacity to change a life any more than I can create a star. It's my duty to make sure I believe. Adrian Rogers said it's not your duty to fill the pulpit. Fill the church. It's your duty to fill the pulpit. So they listen with their eyes. And then someone else said people must see with their ears. So when they hear, and that's where visions formulate. And they begin to think I hear you saying this. You ever heard somebody say that? Think I hear you saying this. Number 9, the word clear. Do you know where you're going? You really begin, creativity, ideas begin to flow. And then number 10, as God really works in the vision, what gets celebrated gets repeated. I brought in an outside firm a few years ago and said, take a look at us. Need some fresh eyes on us. All of us have been here for a while. What do you think we do good? Just stay on my campus. And they stayed around for several weeks, like just on Sundays. And they would just be walk beside somebody and they say, hey, how long you been here? They'd ask questions like this. They gave us the questions like, is this the only church you attend? Because a lot of people go to different churches. Hey, when I'm not here, I'm at Passion City, or whatever. Well, I'd be at Passion City if I could. But anyway, it's so, but they really do. They just tell you, I visit here and there, and then the average person only comes to church one Sunday a month. Average, one Sunday a month. Now, when I got converted, it was 3 times a week. Things have changed over the last 44 years. So it really is a lack of commitment. And same thing with giving. We gave a greater percentage to the kingdom of God during the Great Depression than we do today. In the Great Depression, we gave 3.4%, and today we give 2.5%, and it continues to decline. Builders give 7%. That is, if you were born before 46. Millennials give 1%. Now, you can be a millennial and give more, but you're not the norm. So you got to celebrate. So they told us, they said, weakest thing about Woodstock, you are so busy going from one thing to the next that you don't stop to celebrate what the people did do. So on the 12th of November, we're doing the reveal date, and we're going to celebrate what the people have chosen to do to help the vision become a reality that I've just cast. So here's my statement. Now listen carefully. Here's a summation of what I've taught. A vision must be translated into a mission. Okay, and if I don't have a vision, I'm not a leader. So as a leader, I have a vision. Now, it must be translated into a mission. If not, keep this in mind, you die with a vision in your heart. And by the way, if it's really a vision from God, you ought to be so determined that when you push, if there's resistance, you ought to expect resistance. There's warfare out there. Keep pushing. Keep trusting. And it's implemented by well-defined goals and steps. How am I going to start this journey? Takes one step to go 1,000 miles, the first step. So we must act on that vision. That's called the mission. And then there must be a set of specific measurable steps to achieve the mission. And these steps are called goals. And the goals design the program for achieving the vision, thus fulfilling the vision. And a leader will have one vision and one mission, but many goals. There's many ways to get there, but this is where we're headed. One vision, one goal. So one person put it like this. If you want to be smart, and this will be easy to do, so just do an acrostic, S-M-A-R-T, smart. Your vision has to be specific. It has to be measurable. How would you ever know if you're on target? It has to be attainable. We can do this. These walls can be built. They have to be realistic. Tangible. So you have to do research. I wanted our church to give a certain amount of money. Do you know the average church, and things are changing, but the average church in America can raise in 3 years 1.5 times your annual budget. Don't mean it always happens, but if you get up and say, this is realistic, this is attainable, we can do this. And they begin to say we can do it. Because everybody's going to speak up, and someone will say this. I've been figuring we have this many people that attend on Sunday. If everybody would give this amount. Hold on, partner. Everybody can't give that amount. And if they could, they would be sacrificing big time, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. I told one man that. And he's still coming. I don't know how much longer, but I did. I said, come on, Dan, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And then I asked him this. I said, if you were to give the amount you just said, how long does it take you to make that? I did this. We're good friends. He said, busted, I make that much every day. He wanted to give over 3 years what he makes in one day. The man makes $3,000 a day. So a mission is simply a vision acted upon. All right, now let me just walk through. I've kind of integrated it all the way through, but I want to use the biblical character of Nehemiah. See, this is the thing about leadership. I'm scheduled, some of our seminaries, I'm going to go in for, give them some days and teach leadership, because a lot of seminaries now, and y'all may offer it too, are offering degrees in leadership. You can get I'm mentoring a guy, and I've got him enrolled at Southeastern Seminary. He's working on a doctorate of leadership. And so it's really been neat to interface with him on that. But sometimes when I teach, if I taught everything and I didn't use some scripture here and there, use the name, somebody says, that's all secular, brother. Can I make a statement to you? Truth is truth regardless of where it's found. But Nehemiah, he had a vision to rebuild the walls around Jerusalem. That was it. I mean, he was crying, he was broken, and by the way, he was fasting. We know that he prayed for, I think, 2 months. 2 months he prayed. His mission was to realize the vision. Did you catch that? That was his mission, to realize the vision. The goals are set. The goals are set to carry out the mission. He says, I'm going to put this tribe on this part of the wall here. He looked into the future and he said, you know what, we're going to have some challenges. So what did he do? He had sword in one hand, a trowel in the other. You got it? And there was like, and by the way, is a vision really even worth it if it doesn't take a little bit of a challenge and some resistance? And by the way, you expect something to be God-sized and not get demonic pushback? Do you think you can press in and push back darkness with the light of God without the light of God being resistant? When the very light of the world was here, he was resisted. So goals are set to carry out the mission. So first was prayer. Next, he presented his case to the king. So I prayed through something, and really what I just challenged our church with, you don't have to believe this, but listen carefully. It's a part of vision. It took me a year to settle on what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. They were aspects of what I needed to do that I didn't feel comfortable. Now let's see if this makes sense. I don't like to ask because I'm a giver. I'm a giver. I mean, it's just fact. Now, it's one thing for me to make that statement in this room. It's another thing for me to make it in my pulpit with my financial secretaries out there. They know. But I'm a giver. My wife and I have chose to be generous, and God's given us ways to be generous. And remember, you don't have to be rich to be generous. You have to be generous to be generous. So his prayer, he presented his case to the king, and that's what I did. I begin to sense this, so you begin to present it. Next, he sets out a plan for rebuilding the walls and overcoming opposition. Listen to 1 Corinthians 16:9. For a great and effective door has opened to me, and there's many adversaries, many that will oppose you. So if you think you can do it, I've gotten ugly emails. And by the way, it's taken more grace not to respond than it has boldness to respond. Well, there's times and then on Sunday, I think some of them expect me to, be angry and speak to it. Takes all the Holy Spirit of God that I can be full of, not to respond and know that I'm teeing off on what they said or that I was ticked off. And so that's real victory. It's kind of like a guy attacks me after a sermon, and he's reading me the right act. And it's amazing. My wife's already home after the service, and somebody's texted her and said, you need to pray for your husband. Somebody was in his face. And so when I go home and she says, I hear Larry attacked Jesse. He was fired up, man. He came after me. And what did he say? And I said, well, what did you say to him? And here's victory. Honey, nothing. Now, I wish I could say it every time. Sometimes I say I said too much. But you call it what you want to. It takes more of the power of God to resist. A soft answer turns away wrath. He was consumed by his vision. It's all he could think about. I mean, if you can get over it, it's probably not from God. Kind of like the call. I mean, this is old. I mean, I've been a pastor 41 years, and this is what I heard when I first became a pastor. How do you know God's calling you? Well, if you can do anything else, go do it. That may sound like that's just not enough, but I want to tell you something. It's been enough for me. I could not be happy doing anything else. I feel like I was made for this, to serve the Lord. He created a mission designed to realize the vision. I'm trying to say it over and over again. He created under God the goal program necessary to carry out the mission and fulfill the vision. The leader cherishes his vision. Boy, that thing's sacred. When I was at Southeastern Seminary in those days, you never hear me talk about this. This is not something I preach about. I really don't. I don't waste any airtime for this. But back in the days when I was a student there, it was days of theological liberalism and its challenges to our denomination. That has a lot to do with why Mid-America Baptist Theological Seminary was formed. All right, so I'm there in that context, and I'm pastoring a church, and it was a hard church. And I'm okay with that. It helped me. In my first church, they were so loving, I was able to cut my spiritual eye teeth right so my teeth wouldn't be set on edge the rest of my ministry. Sour grapes that put your teeth on edge. And when they are, Everything in your life is out of alignment. So God let me cut my spiritual eye teeth right. If they come in right, they'll grow right, all right? They won't affect the other teeth. Are y'all with me? I mean, there's really some great truth in that. And so God really helped me. So I really believe I became a good pastor. 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, first church, college setting. Then I went off to seminary. It was really hard. And the church, when they'd be without pastors, they'd bring in a theologically liberal professor. They would. And so the church had become very liberal in its views. The people cursed a lot. I was converted out of a pool room, so I lost 80% of my vocabulary when I got saved. And they didn't. They still had the same vocabulary. And so it was really, really a difficult place. So somebody said, what's your takeaway from there? This is worth the journey. What's your takeaway from having left a hard church? I left with my vision intact. See, people can steal your vision. It's not theirs to take. So here I am, 41 years later, still got a vision. But some have tried to take it, tried to discourage me, tried to distract me. And some have been more successful than they should have been. So he transfers the vision to the followers. He motivates the group to commit to the mission that will realize the vision. There it is, that meets their real need. They need the walls around. They want to come home. It's such a beautiful picture. Hey, here's a great verse on vision. Psalm 39, verse 3. My heart was hot within me. While I was musing, the fire burned. Then I spoke with my tongue. Hey, you ever heard of Pastor this? Folks, I want to share my heart with you today. There's been something burning in my heart. Psalm 39, verse 3. I can't get it out of my mind. Musing. That musing's in the same family with meditating. You think about it, take it inside, regurgitate it. Think about it some more, regurgitate it, think about it some more. Every spare moment you're consumed with that thought. So worthy visions are gifts from God. James 1:17. Let's see if there's anything else I need to teach you before lunch. Clear understanding on. You're going to get all these notes. I just wrote so much there. Let me just ask 2 questions. If you feel like you have a vision from the Lord, question: will the vision produce results of beneficial perseverance? Will this last or just pass away? Number 2, will the vision move the people toward goals that fulfill their real need? And we've laid out how ours would. I believe it will. And we've got great buy-in. Not everybody. Some, instead of buying in, criticized. It's okay. So, but not enough to cause me not to do it. All right, hey, let me change gears with you, and let's do this. And let me go. I'm watching the clock back there and right here. Let me do about 7 minutes, and that way we'll have about 10 minutes before we eat lunch, time to go to the restroom. And some of you, I was told that we were out of books, and we're not now, right? So we had some more. It's kind of like you better get yours. We have a limited supply, and if the limited supply goes out, we got another limited supply out in the car. So we brought I brought them in, and we had forgot. We got to talking and walked in this morning and didn't bring any extras, and we knew we needed them. So if you didn't get them, they're out there. All right, let me do this. I love passion. Okay, I love passion. When I wrote this message, I required that morning that every staff member be in the first service in the closest rows to the front. I reserved them, their whole families. And I have a large team, so I want it all. So that means if they're in preschool, they've got teachers and all. Tell them you'll be there in the next hour, but you all will be in the first service. And you can do that when they serve with you. So, and I wanted to talk about what I want to talk to you about. And I'm going to just make one kind of overarching statement. Passion is a big deal. And I'm going to talk about what it is and what it's not. And that's how we're going to end our time from 1 till 2. But so let me just whet your appetite for it now, and hope you can stay with us after lunch. And then we're finishing at 2 o'clock. All right, what is passion? It's an intense emotion. It's a compelling action. And by the way, it's very, very biblical. Bible over and over again talks about zeal. It uses the word pathos. And I'll say this again later, but let me say it the first time. Did you know that pathos lives right next door to apathy? Say, what do you mean? All right, now my Greek professors, here we go. All you need is an alpha to negate passion. Take pathos and put an A in front of it, and it negates the passion. And by the way, there's A's everywhere in the church. Alphas everywhere, trying to negate your passion. They say that if you'll go somewhere and lead something for 5 years, that there's a good chance what you lead takes on your personality. And I don't know if it's true, but I went to a dead First Baptist church, and now we are not dead. They hoop and holler so much after the music that I have to wait and stand in the pulpit smiling and laughing at them for them to calm down so I can preach. I can stand up at Woodstock, and if you'll come one Sunday and ask me to do it, because I don't do it every week, I'll do it for you. I'll say, ladies and gentlemen, it's offering time. And they whistle and cheer and applaud. And you may say, oh yeah, that's easy. That's just all fluff. You don't know how much we took in. We're one of the largest per capita giving churches in America. Per capita. So that means if you run 10, you can do, how much do you get per person? Per capita. Met with Dave Ramsey recently, largest churches in America. We were the largest one in that room. Per capita giving. Great giving. Current. But it had to get there. Had to get there. Wasn't there. But vision helped get us there. All right, so it's a strong devotion to some object, activity, concept, or zeal. So people are passionate. Now, so here's what we can do, and I can do it in 3 minutes. Or if I don't, I'll stop and I'll pick them back up. 5 reasons people lack passion. Now, the reason I want to start here, I'm going to tell you why you lack it. Then I'm going to tell you why you need it and what it really is and what it'll do for you. Number 1, they've allowed something precious to become familiar. After a while, things just become common. Last person I talked to before I went to bed last night, my wife. First person I talked to after the Lord this morning is my wife. My wife challenges my relationship with the Lord, and the Lord challenges my relationship with my wife. I tell my wife every day that I love her, but I also tell Jesus every day that I love him. I was challenged the other day to tell the Lord every day how much I love his word. To talk to something about him, and you do the same. So I believe the reason we made it 47 years, and she's still my best friend, and she travels with me. I hate it when she can't travel with me. And she normally don't do these fast things like come in at 10 and leave at 4, you know. I'd kill her. But when we going off for several days, she's with me. So you've allowed something precious to become familiar. Nobody ever stood at the altar that was not marrying someone that was precious. But why is so much divorce in the church? After a while, things just become common. You take it for granted. Sunday morning, and I hate to do this. I really don't mean anything by it, like, look what we do. But I just want to just tell you what I did Sunday. In my 3rd service Sunday morning, we baptized 16 new converts. And I said to the people, I said, you know, I was watching and half of you didn't even applaud. You know why? You just take it for granted. I said, let me tell you what God won't let me forget. In my first church, I would have run around the building 14 times if God would have saved 16 people the whole year. And y'all have just taken it. You're so stinking spoiled. You come here and see all this happen. And stinking's a Greek word. But anyway, you know, so don't allow the things that are precious to become common. There's men that have got into the church and it became common, so they started doing common things outside the church and it got them in trouble. And they lost what once was very precious to them. Number two, why are they not passionate? Because people want acceptance and approval. So what do you mean by that, Pastor Johnny? Well, passion draws people, but it also repels people. I have a guy on my staff now, and he told me after he joined, he said, I've got to tell you, but you promise you'll never say anything to my in-laws about it. I said, all right, tell me. He said, my in-laws begged us not to join his church. I said, really? Did they give you a reason? I said, they sure did. They said, that man's really fired up. He expects you to be there every time doors are open. No, I really don't. I just wonder why you don't want to. See, it's we get to, you don't have to. But I really do wonder. You have an opportunity to come worship God. Why are you so excited about spending eternity with him when it grieves you to spend? We go to a ball game, hope it goes into extra endings. Come to church and shake our watch if it's after 12. And by the way, I just want you to know, if you ever come to Woodstock, don't work. It don't work there. I just think you're praising God back there, you know. So it repelled his parents, and it compelled him. He wanted to be part of something that somebody was passionate about, excited about. Sometimes when people see someone that's red hot, they want to run out of the room. And it may be our tendency to turn down the heat of passion in order to seek to be normal or average like other people. you don't mean to be judgmental, but sometimes you are without even wanting to be. If I go to Starbucks to get a cup of coffee, I want the person in front of me to get as close to the person in front of them as they can. If they stand way back, I feel like I'm supposed to go in between them. And so I'm sitting, here's what I'm saying. This man's passive. I'm judging him. He's passive. He would move up. He's not excited about getting a cup of coffee. I mean, it's bad. It's just, but number three, here's why people are not passionate. We'll stop right here. Number three, here's why people are not passionate. Our society is passive. Did you know we've moved into an era right now did you know that I have a lot of young people that wish I would not deal with what I was asked to deal with? I did a website. And I left it up for 3 months, and worldwide they could hear this through our preaching. If you will email me or come to this website and tell me what you wish I would biblically address, and then while I'm away on sabbatical, I'm going to write. I'm only going to take the top 3 to start with because most likely it's going to be challenging. It'll take a lot of research. Number 1 on the website that people were asking, will you address homosexuality and same-sex marriage? I knew it was coming. And it was right in the heat of it with the courts. And there were young people saying this, and not just young people, some parents whose kids were going to marry their girls, going to marry their girlfriend, stuff like that. Don't address that. Why address it? How does it hurt you? Do you really want to know? You do? Oh, because if God approves of a woman marrying a woman, the gospel's not true. And just for the record's sake, theologically, Ephesians 5 is not about marriage, it's about the gospel. Johnny, love your wife like Jesus Christ loved the church. That's the gospel. How did Jesus love the church? Shed his blood, died on the cross, rose from the dead. How is the wife to be submissive to her husband? He doesn't use some theory, some human speculation. He says, as the church is submissive to Christ. Show me a church that God honors that's not submissive to his son. That's the gospel. So if this is true, this is not. What's it say? Here we're on Reformation Day. Let's just say it, brother. It's time for somebody to get the hammer. And by the way, it's easier to celebrate the bravery of the past than it is to be brave now. I'm trying to quit. We need to quit. But we've still got 7 minutes. But let me just tell you this. Stephen Alford, if you ever went to hear Stephen Alford teach preaching, anytime I was there, He always said, now you've been with me all day in the seminar. I'm going to illustrate expositional preaching. Turn to 2 Timothy, and he preached the text on preach the word. Let me tell you what I'll never forget. Preach the word, be instant, in season and out of season. Definition, no closed season on preaching. Now, Johnny Hunt's definition of 21st century is easier to preach out of season than in season. What do you mean? 25 years ago, homosexuality was a shame in our society. I'm not just picking on one side, I'm illustrating something, so hang in there. But you preach on it today, it's in season, brother. And I'm going to go a step further. Preach a biblical message that is strictly positive in loving your wife and defining what Ephesians 5 says. And say nothing negative about homosexuality or same-sex marriage. And they still come after you because you didn't include them. So I just want you to know, you need to know your landscape, all right? So it's there. What was number 2 on that list? This is interesting. Are y'all ready? Should a Christian drink alcohol? And can I tell you this? I've done a lot of preaching in 41 years, but can I tell you the number 2 requested sermon of my ministry so far? I wrote it, and it happened to be a finished, completed document ready for Sunday night sermon the same week Princess died. So that sermon's 20 years old. They're celebrating her 20th anniversary. She died. And I entitled A Biblical Commitment to Total Abstinence. Subtitle, Should a Christian Drink? I just rewrote it, another one. And it's, 20 years. So somebody says, he deals with that a lot. Yeah, every 20 years he writes a sermon on it. And the new one's entitled, A Call to Wisdom. Is it wise to drink alcohol? So, that's a lot of research. Now, let me give you this and we'll go to lunch because we're getting ready to go. It's 4 minutes till. Here it is. You can go to the App Store. Just tell one lady here. Go to your free app, your apps, and download woodstockchurch.tv. It'll say free app. Click on. It's yours. Then when you go to your page, click messages, and there's over 300 sermons to listen to. And most of those I've mentioned are in there. And all of my manuscripts are there. So it says, listen, take notes, or read sermon notes. And if you'll click on everything I've written and footnoted and all in the sermons there. What was number 3? What does the Bible say about pornography? I've got a new book coming out latter part of this year called The Hidden Life. And it deals with that. And it has a 119-page workbook that goes with it. So anyway. So there you are. Sophie helps us some more free products. And you can enjoy. And then every week when I write the sermon, if you were homesick or you go to 11 o'clock church, click on at 9:30 and watch us live. And then 11 o'clock we're live. 2 different services in 2 different buildings on the same campus. Monday afternoon is archived, and it's all there. So if it can ever be of help to you. All right. Mr. President, I am starving.
Let me give you some instructions for eating. The serving lines, there'll be 2. They're